This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, come on along and welcome aboard the Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary here on this Thursday, December 19. Man, it does not slow down. That clock keeps ticking, Todd Leary. How are you today, sir? Good
Morning,
to hear.
sunshine. Morning, sunshine.
Yeah. How's it going?
Well, I just somehow spilled my coffee milkshake all over myself. And
I was just getting to ask, what are you doing over there?
Well, I tried to be like a kid and lick it off my shirt. Somehow I spilled it farther on myself, and so I have chocolate all over me.
Well, good thing you're wearing black.
I'm a mess. Yeah, my pants are white.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
They
out
were.
well,
They were.
Hope you're having a great day. We appreciate you joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. On the program today, Dylan Sin, our old friend from Fort Wayne Journal and Gazette, is going to join us. He covers Notre Dame quite a bit. We're going to talk about the matchup between the Hoosiers and the Fighting Irish coming up on Saturday at the Crossroads Classic. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition is going to join us later on as well. We'll talk more about the bowl selection, the bowls coming up. Indiana's, of course, playing in the Gator Bowl, Taxslayer Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida against Tennessee. Talk about all that and lots more. Plus, we'll talk about, of course, the early signing period that has, well, we're in the middle of it right now. Yesterday was actually the first day, but
How long does that last?
Just a couple days, but most things happen in the first day. It's they want to get it over with. They want those signatures, those national letter of intent signatures, so they can rest, and not worry about it. So generally, 95% of everything happens on that first day. Yeah, to get it out of the way.
Yep.
College basketball, of course, continuing.
It's a holiday.
To leave us.
It's a holiday for Indiana fans. Kentucky got beat.
Yeah, I just broke my goddamn glasses.
It's always a holiday the day after Kentucky gets beat.
Yeah, we talked about the lateness of this game yesterday, Todd. Playing at 11 o'clock Eastern time, and I stayed up and watched that whole damn game. Do you think really? You have no idea how pissed I was going to be if Utah ended up coughing that game up, and they tried. They had a 17-point first half lead that they allowed Kentucky to whittle away in the second half and tie that ball game. But Utah is able to hold on and win that thing 69-66. Second unranked team knocking off Kentucky this season. So there's that. Just take that and let that sink in. And
Utah's pretty good, though. I mean, they're an unranked team.
Well, they're not bad.
They're kind of like in Indiana. I mean, they've got the ability to be a top 15 team.
I think they're 8-2 right now.
Yeah. I mean, they're a pretty good team. They're way better than I hate to say it, but they're way better than Evansville was.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that. And actually, the bigger surprise of the night was not that matchup. It was, how about your Ball State Cardinals going down to Georgia Tech and beating the Yellow Jackets by nearly 20 on the road. That's not a good look for Josh Pastner.
No, it was Georgia Tech is. That's a program in complete disarray, if you want my opinion. I mean, they just are.
I'm surprised he's still there, Todd.
I really am too. Like it's something. There's something strange about that because I remember when they got in trouble or investigated a few years ago. I thought for sure he was gone. I think they lost some scholarships, but that's just this program that has not showed any sign of improvement. And I watched them when they played against Nebraska, and they just did not look like a cohesive group.
Yeah, it's just them and LSU.
LSU got smacked by 20 last night too.
Yeah, how about that?
Tennessee.
East Tennessee, man. It's wow.
It's crazy.
You really like to see it happen to teams like LSU because of what's going on with their coach, who is a known cheater, and yet he's able to skate through right now. It's a little maddening.
Yep, it sure is.
Let's see. There was another big game. Let's see. Tennessee lost last night, I think.
Yeah, they did.
Lost to Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's not crazy though.
Tennessee was a 1.5 point favorite in that game.
But that's one of those. I mean, Tennessee was ranked 21st. I mean, those teams getting knocked off in that area just makes it closer and closer for Indiana to get into that top 25 ranking.
Absolutely. We got a lot to talk about today. The college football signing day began yesterday. We'll get to that. We're going to let's hear from Tom Allen now, as a matter of fact. He was talking about this class and talking about this is not a class as large as normal. Indiana, we've talked about 80 of their 113 players on their roster were underclassmen this past season. So this class was not going to be terribly big. They end up getting 18 players in this class, which is not horribly small. It's just not as big as normal because of just don't have the room. But they really tried to solve some problems on the offensive line. A third of this class was offensive linemen. They had a quarterback. They had a 4-star wide receiver from Detroit. But overall, a top 50 class for Indiana. That gives Indiana a top 50 class for the third consecutive season. That's never happened in Indiana program history. So it's nice that they can keep that going. But let's hear what Tom Allen had to say.
So really excited about this group. I feel like that it kind of embodies, even though it's not a very high in number, we knew it was going to be a smaller class this year with our numbers that we're losing, but at the same time, heavy on the offensive line, which it needed to be. And also it's just got a little bit of a good flavor at each position. We had a chance to address those needs and guys that will be graduating. And like the length of the class, if you notice, there's nobody listed under 6 foot. Got some length at skill positions on both sides of the football, and then a lot of length on the offensive line, which is important to be able to develop and get these guys where they need to be. Really, really believe in our strength conditioning program, our nutrition program here. We've invested in that, and that allows us to be able to bring young men in here that have a certain structure physically that you're looking for, and a body type that you're looking for, and then the character fit that you're looking for, and be able to plug those guys into the system and then to develop them. You know, as an athlete, which involves being a student first, a high character guy that wants to be developed in his leadership and his character and decision making in life, and then ultimately, you know, in the weight room there where our strength staff spends so much time with them. So trying to find guys that fit those three qualities for us, and feel like this class has been able to address those needs and allow us to continue to build on the foundation that we've laid here with the first two classes, and allow a very young football team to be added to with this class.
I'm talking about what's that? There's Indiana football coach Tom Allen talking about the signing class for this year, adding to what they have. Of course, not large in numbers, but they got some quality players there. The big question about Kalen DeBoer, with him taking the head coaching position at Fresno State back where he came from. There was questions and concerns on whether he was going to be with the team for the bowl game, because I got to tell you, he is just a large part of that offense. And not having him, there's no way you cannot say that wouldn't have an effect, because his play calling has been unbelievable, man. He's a huge reason why they had the success they did. And we've been wondering whether or not he was going to be a part of the team. I didn't think that he was. From the comments I read to Todd yesterday, it didn't sound like it.
It sure didn't sound like it.
It sounded like he was like, hey, see you guys. But from what we heard yesterday, let's hear what Tom Allen had to say about Kalen DeBoer.
Kalen DeBoer on the opportunity to be at Fresno State. Once again, I know I sent out a tweet on that, but really appreciate all he's done for our program and him coming here and doing such a great job. And he's such a first-class person and husband and father, and very much worthy of being a head coach at Division I level. And so I know that I really want to just thank him and wish him nothing but the best. And so our goal, and we've talked, and is for him to call the offense during the bowl game. And that's the intent for us to make that work. Obviously, some things we have to work through to get that to that point, but we've talked through both administrations with that and just trying to make sure we can coordinate that and do our best to be able to allow him to do the job he needs to do there and also be able to finish strong. It's been a special season. He wants to be able to finish it out. So that's the hope. That's the plan. And we'll continue to play. Caleb.
There's Coach Tom Allen talking about Kalen DeBoer and his availability for the bowl game after being named head coach at Fresno State. It sounds like that's quote unquote the plan, Todd, but it doesn't sound like it's in stone though.
That is worded very, very strangely. I'm still not counting. I'm still not counting on the fact that that's going to happen based on the way that was worded.
Yeah, it didn't. It was not the most reassuring statement I've ever heard.
Yeah,
but
hopefully
that's going to work out.
Little vague as far as actually committing to the fact that he's going to be there, but and quite frankly, I kind of have mixed feelings about that. I mean, I think obviously they would be better off, but is he truly going to be able to put the amount of time into game planning the way that you would hope so?
That's a great question, actually. It's a good point. I don't think that he can.
No way. There's no way.
But at the same time, at least this is at the end of the season. Their offense is so developed at this point. They know what they want to do. And I think that they'll do all they can to mitigate those points, which is a great point, and it's something I hadn't thought about. But I think they'll do whatever they can to mitigate that. But I also think that no matter what, at the end of the day, having him is better than not having him, no matter what the situation is. I just think that he is so in tune with what to run, especially with Peyton Ramsey, since there's a slight fall off between Penix and Ramsey. So he knows how to capitalize on Ramsey's talents with this particular offense. I think it's going to be a win-win for Indiana in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I honestly, I don't even know staff-wise, who would be the backup offensive coordinator. Like, let's say Kalen DeBoer was sick during the season or something, and couldn't be at a game. Like, who would be the backup offensive coordinator? Who would call those plays? I'm assuming whoever that is, has kind of been his right-hand man all year long and would know, it's not that hard to figure out someone's philosophy and how they call the plays. Now, you might be wrong, 1, 2, 3 times during a game, but I'm guessing, what have they played, 13 games already, 12 games already?
Yeah, 12.
At that point, I mean, you kind of already know. If I've been with him for 12 games and, 6 months of calling, figuring out what he's going to call on offense, I probably could come pretty close to guessing what he's going to call on offense. And this is, like I said this yesterday, this is a great opportunity for somebody else to step up and prove that they might be worthy of the job. And I know we all kind of agree that Indiana should try to go outside and hire, the best of the best, but this is a good opportunity, I think, for someone else that's within the program right now to step up and maybe have a big day.
Well, Tom Brutus sent out a text that Kalen DeBoer confirmed that he will be coaching in the Gator Bowl. So there we go. We don't have to worry about there being in it.
Yeah, I know. I tell you, I'm torn between it.
I know what you're saying, but I just think that I agree, and I understand what you're saying. I do, but I think that in the end, for this team, because I don't think it's going to be an internal candidate. I think that, and especially because yesterday during the press conference with Tom, one of the things he was asked was, has he been receiving calls from the outside about this job? Because this is a good job now.
Sure.
I mean, the talent that's coming back, what they did this year, what Kalen DeBoer showed that you could do here. Anyway, his response was, my phone's been ringing off the hook. He was it's almost like, somebody make it stop?
When you show the willingness to pay the money to bring somebody in,
absolutely,
obviously the candidate pool goes way up. But there's so much more involved, and I definitely think football is more than basketball would be. But there's so much more involved in calling the plays, like setting up the game plan, and they've got 2 more weeks before they play. I'm sure they've already been doing it before he was announced Monday as the new coach at Fresno State, but There's so much more involved in preparation.
But the good thing
I
is,
think he'll be the calls will be scrutinized. The play calls will be scrutinized a lot more in this game
if they don't work.
If they don't work, I mean, don't you think? I will. I'll look at it that way. I'll be like, he put 80% effort into it.
I'm not, just because, like I said, I think that no matter what happens, that they are better off with him than without him under any circumstance. I don't think that there's anybody on that staff I want to see calling those plays other than Kalen DeBoer, and that's including if he walked right off of the airport tarmac in time for the bowl game. I would still take Kalen DeBoer calling the plays over anybody else that they have.
Yeah, and I mean, this is my statements are not,
No, I know. You're
meant directly at Kalen DeBoer. It's the situation in general.
No, and it's understandable.
Substitute any name in there for whatever that is, and I would question, because every time there's a play call that that Tennessee sniffs it out and tackles for a loss, I'm going to be like, I wonder if we'd have game planned a little different if we'd have watched more film. But that's just me being.
It's a good point.
Hypercritical.
That's a good point I hadn't thought of. Hey, we got a lot more coming up. Joining us next, Dylan Sin from the Fort Wayne Journal and Gazette. We're going to talk about a little Indiana Notre Dame basketball when we come back. We got more football we'll talk about later. We're going to hear from Mike Hart later on. Hiller and the line coach. We'll hear from him as well. Archie Miller, we're going to hear from him. We got so much to get to, Todd. It's a loaded show today. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We're back with all that and more right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
I like it like that. Whoa, yeah.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Coy O'Leary coming to you on this Thursday, December 19, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Hope you're doing well. Joined now by our good friend Dylan Sin from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Dylan, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Jim. How are you?
Good. Hopefully I'm warmer than you are since you're further north. I hope it's colder up there.
It is extremely cold up here, and it has been for the last few days. So a little bit jealous of you guys down there.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't feel like I'm in the South right now. But I definitely don't feel warm either. So another one of those. So we're in the same place there. But, hey, a big game coming up on Saturday, Dylan, between Notre Dame and Indiana, a couple of teams that within the state of Indiana, but aren't really seen as state rivals per se. I mean, I think they more used to be when they played on a regular basis, but not so much now. And things have not gone as well for Mike Bray this season as they have been. But what's going on with that Notre Dame team that you've seen?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing for this Notre Dame team is obviously they're coming off that season last year where they didn't make the tournament again. That was something that they said before the season. Our number one goal is to get back to the tournament. That's something where they think they deserve to be, they should be as a program. And that was their goal, but they just haven't shot the ball real well this year. They're shooting 34% from three-point range, 41% overall. So it's not something that, I mean, they're 8-3, so the season hasn't gone extremely poorly, but they don't have a signature win really, and they're just not shooting the ball well, and that's something that Indiana is going to have to take advantage of on Saturday.
Yeah, and not saying that Indiana not being ranked and whatnot, it normally would not be a signature win, but I think the way things have gone thus far this season, a win over Indiana would be a signature win for them at this moment.
I think it would be as well. I mean, Indiana's 10-1. They're receiving votes in the AP poll right now, and obviously it'd be a nice win on a neutral site. It's going to be on national television. You're playing at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. So that's always going to be a big win. And I mean, we've seen teams win in the Crossroads Classic and get propelled and go on and get hot, kind of like Purdue did last year. So that's something that we're going to have to see whether that can be kind of a springboard for whatever team wins on Saturday.
Go ahead.
Hey, this is Todd Leary. I was just checking in and checking on the stats and on the roster of Notre Dame. And Pfluger's a guy who I know with his injury, didn't he get hurt in this game last year? I think he got hurt in the game at the Crossroads last year. But isn't he a guy who he only averages 5 points a game, but he's really kind of their emotional leader and their guy who they kind of revolve everything around. I know Mooney, averages 15 points and 14 rebounds. So obviously he's their best player, but isn't Pfluger really the guy that they look at to kind of keep the offense moving and keep everybody, on the same page?
Yeah, he absolutely is. He's a guy who he's not only their emotional leader, he's their best on-ball defender. So he's an extremely key player for them. He did get hurt against Purdue in the Crossroads Classic last year. Ended up missing the rest of the season. So he's a guy that they're extremely happy to have him back. They were excited that he came back for his senior season. As I said, he is their best defensive player, so he's huge for them, and that was a big reason why they struggled after this game last year.
Indiana, of course, also a team looking to get back to the tournament, Dylan. They have not made it for 3 years now, 3 consecutive seasons. So that's obviously a goal for this Indiana team, and they can't afford a loss to a Notre Dame team, especially one that is probably not going to be a big add to the resume if they beat them, but it would sure be a drag on that resume if they were to lose to them. So this is the game Indiana can't really afford to lose, and they need to win it actually to maintain momentum as they move forward as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. They can't really afford to lose this game. Considering how soft their early part of their schedule was, and I think that was actually not a bad way to set the schedule up, just because they have a young team, they needed to gain some experience. But considering the fact that their early schedule was a little bit soft, they need to pick up these wins against Power 5 opponents. They need to get this win. They need to go win against Arkansas. I think it's really important for them to go out and get this victory on Saturday, get to 11-1, and get another win away from Assembly Hall. That's a big thing for Indiana. Get these neutral site and road victories, and that'll help pad the resume as well when you're looking ahead in March.
Dylan, you're up in Fort Wayne, but you get a different perspective now of being up in that area of the country. You cover Notre Dame, you cover Purdue, you cover IU, so you get to see from different perspectives. Has this game and this series, the Crossroads Classic, has it lost some of its luster? We were talking about this yesterday. Indiana can't play in there's always a big event that's going on that same weekend. We used to see Michigan State playing on the Carrier, but they're always playing against some big teams, and whether it's Ohio State doing the same thing. Indiana can't get those invites because they're locked in because of this Crossroads Classic. But has this lost some of its luster, especially because there's not a single ranked team is Butler ranked? They were at one point, but if they're not ranked, there's not a single ranked team in this event.
Yeah, Butler is ranked. They are the only ranked team in this event right now, which is a little bit ironic because I was going to say that it was bigger when the event first started because Butler was coming off. It started in 2011. Butler was coming off those back-to-back national championship game appearances, so it was huge back then. Indiana was just getting back to being Indiana. Purdue was in its baby Boilers phase. Notre Dame was at the height of its power under Mike Bray. So it was those four teams at the time were some of the best teams in the country. And so it's not the same right now just because the teams are not as elite as they were at the time. And I think they can get back to that. Obviously, Purdue's coming off an Elite Eight appearance. Indiana, it seems to be a good team this year, looking like if they continue in their current path, they will get back to the tournament. Purdue, they're kind of up in the air right now. We're not sure how good they can end up being. But Butler is ranked, as we said. So if the teams are good, this event is good. And I think it's still a good idea to get them all in the same building on the same day, almost like state championship day at Bankers Life Fieldhouse for high schools. This is kind of the college version of that. I still enjoy the idea. It's just about getting these teams back to where they were when the event started.
Todd, this event wasn't around when you were playing. You guys were still playing Notre Dame and Purdue, but you weren't really playing Butler that scheduled that much back then. But this event in itself, what's your take on that?
Well, a lot of along the lines of what he just said, in that outside of the state of Indiana, I don't think too many people are going to care about watching these games this weekend or who wins or loses them. But from a recruiting perspective, it's still a big deal, and it's still a good event for, obviously if you're a winning team and regularly winning. I think I looked at Indiana's 5-3 in this event, and Butler's also 5-3 in this event, and it probably helps them recruiting wise. I mean, I don't know if it helps Indiana quite as much when they're recruiting more players in the top 100 than maybe a Butler. But I think Butler definitely benefits from it. I think Notre Dame probably benefits from it a little bit more than Indiana and Purdue from a recruiting perspective. And it's a great event. It's great for the fans. It's kind of fun. The biggest thing I think you take out of it is the fact you get to play in a venue that is real similar, if not the same venue that hosts a lot of NCAA regional and first round and second round events. So that's definitely a benefit in getting to play in that environment. It's just a different, the acoustics are different, the visual shooting behind what you see behind the basket. Everything's just a little bit different than when you play on your home court or the other Big Ten arenas. So I think it's a help in regards to that.
Yeah, but when it comes to national recruiting, I think that is actually hurting Indiana.
I agree with you.
Yeah, they're not participating in these other events, and they're not looked at right now as a national team per se. Back in the day, back when you were playing, of course, hell, you guys were ranked week in, week out, and that makes a difference too. But right now, they don't have this national cachet right now, and it shows up in recruiting. Dylan?
Well, this event for sure doesn't, but. There are years when that's not necessarily the case. Although, even when Butler's good, Butler, I think Indiana fans appreciate Butler a lot more than, people in Kentucky or teams from North Carolina or areas like that. I mean, I still think that they are aware that Butler's good, but they're not really scared of a Butler or they don't pay that much attention to a Butler team. So, and I don't mean that to be rude or rip on Butler. I'm just saying nationally, I don't think the event takes on quite the, the big scale that you see. I think the same day there's two other big events out in Las Vegas going on the same day, Saturday. So that's something Indiana, it would be better. And you saw North Carolina last night go on the road to Gonzaga. I mean, Gonzaga is usually the team that has to travel and go play at other places. I remember they played at North Carolina last year. So that's just the kind of thing I think that's kind of cool if you can get more events like that. We talked about Kentucky playing in Vegas last night against Utah, but to have North Carolina go to Gonzaga, I mean, they talked about that's the biggest game they have ever hosted at Gonzaga University before. So, that's definitely a higher profile event than something like Indiana and Notre Dame and Purdue and Butler.
Dylan, as we move forward to bowl season, you've got Indiana going to the Taxslayer Gator Bowl, playing Tennessee and an SEC member. A good opportunity for the Indiana team to continue what they built on this season and to add a lot of momentum going into next year, especially as they search for a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about there, is that this is an opportunity for Indiana to get some real national exposure as a football program, which they don't have a lot of opportunities to do. Their non-conference schedule is generally not that strong because they're trying to bag some wins just to get to a bowl game. So this game, they can go out there, they can play an SEC opponent. If they get a win, they're a 9-win team for the first time since 1967, which would be huge for this program. And so it is an opportunity just to get out there and get your name out there and say, hey, Indiana's a real football team. People don't talk about us very much because we're overshadowed by basketball and yada, yada, yada. But this is an opportunity for them to go out and say, hey, we play football here too. And that's going to be huge in recruiting. I mean, teams use bowl games for recruiting all the time. Hey, we just won so-and-so bowl game. We got the trophy here. Look at it. But this is for Indiana, a team that doesn't even usually go to bowl games and hasn't won one since 1993. It's just going to be a huge boon for Tom Allen.
Yeah, and I think the opportunity right now of having this open offensive coordinator position is going to end up being a boon for Indiana as well, now that we know that his phone has been, quote, ringing off the hook ever since they announced that Kalen DeBoer would be leaving. This could be an opportunity to bring in a name even bigger than Kalen. Well, Kalen DeBoer was not a big name coming in. He was very good, obviously, and showed he was very good. But this may be an opportunity for Indiana to bring in an even bigger name now because, like Todd mentioned earlier, they've shown that they will pay the price tag for a good offensive coordinator. And you can have success at Indiana in the Big Ten East, and they've got a ton of talent coming back next year.
Exactly, and that's the thing that fans really need to understand is obviously you're going to be upset that Kalen DeBoer is leaving just because the offense was so good this year and he seemed to do such a good job. But in big-time college football, you want your coordinators to go get head coaching jobs because that makes your program attractive for young, up-and-coming coaches that can do that year in and year out. That's why teams like Alabama, they go out and they get really talented coordinators year after year after year because teams know, coaches know that if they go to a program like that, they're probably going to end up as a head coach somewhere. And if Indiana can become a program like that, where if you take a coordinator position, you're probably going to end up as a head coach somewhere, that's going to make them more attractive to prospective coaches. And you're going to get more talented coaches coming in. So I think it's good to establish that we're Indiana, we're a program that can make you a head coach. And I think that you're right. They could attract a big name. off of this, especially if they go win this bowl game.
Absolutely. Dylan, what's going on with you? What do the people need to know about that you've got out?
Today for Notre Dame on the Journal-Gazette website, I broke down their entire recruiting class for 2020 from National Signing Day, so that's the big one. Go check that out, www.journalgazette.net/sports.
Appreciate you, brother. As always, we greatly appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely. Always glad to do it.
You bet. Dylan Sin from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. We've got a lot more coming up. We've still got it. We're going to talk about the search for the athletic director at Indiana. Actually, I should have brought that up with Dylan as well. So much to talk about. We're going to talk about Indiana basketball going forward as they'll take on Notre Dame. We've just got a ton to get to. Did you know Herman Boone died? I'll tell you who that is when we come back. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. You're listening to Coyle Leary here on this Thursday, December 19. Hope your week has gone well. Man, we got a lot to get to this weekend. Indiana taking on Notre Dame, the Crossroads Classic. Of course, after that, Purdue Butler go at it. Not that we care, but just letting you know.
We care. We like good basketball. We care.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. But we won't be there.
Stayed up last night and watched Kentucky on TV.
We did.
Well, you did.
Yeah,
I watched the highlights this morning when I got up.
I watched that entire game, and let me tell you, Utah led that entire game, and they let Kentucky chip away, and then there were some horrible calls. That game was horribly officiated. There was like 3 charging calls that they called blocking. They called one a blocking foul at the end that they were allowed to overturn, which that blew my mind. I didn't know they could change calls. But apparently, because it was whether or not the defender
whether he was in the circle,
yeah.
I think
and
that's the only way they can review it.
Circle.
Yeah, I think that's the only way they can review it. But it's just that that whole the officiating thing this year. I don't stick up for officials very often. You know that. Don't even get me off on my tangent on bad officiating. But this whole flop rule thing is. Like they are putting these guys in such a bad position to have to try to call this thing. I've seen Bo Borowski this year call one of those in every single game. Every single game he's called one, and it's very hard because if there's any contact, who's to say? I saw one in a game 2 nights ago where the player actually did push off. Maybe not quite to the effect of what the guy went down to the floor on, but he definitely got pushed. And
was that along the baseline?
It was.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it like they called him for a flop warning, and I was like, that just is like there was definitely contact. I mean, if there's no contact, I see the call being made. The guys throwing their heads back, I like it when they call that. But when there's actual contact and a guy goes down because of it, I'm shocked that they're putting these officials in some of these bad positions.
I hear you. Indiana's athletic director position will be coming open at the end of this calendar year. Yesterday was released a list of those who will help make that decision. It's chaired by, I think it was Bill Stephen. He's an Indiana native, an IU McKinney School of Law grad. He served as IU vice president since 2001. And he's on some other thing now. But anyway, the list of people that they put on there is some of it which is a who's who of IU people, but some of which people I've never heard of. Kerry Doherty is chair of IU Athletics Committee. Allison Jordan, member of the IU women's soccer team. Wow. Okay, so there's a player. Allison Jordan.
I remember they did that, but they've done that in the past. They've always had an athlete on there from some
academic sport. All-American and senior in the Kellogg School of Business. Yes, he's okay.
Yeah, she's qualified. She's qualified.
I'll be working for her one day.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be pumping her gas.
Ray Luce, who is the head coach of IU men's and women's swimming. Pat Miller is the director emeritus of the IU Foundation, former director of the IU Varsity Club, and co-founder of Vera Bradley. Get the hell out of here. Really? Need a purse? Terry Moore, the IU women's basketball coach. Now, the thing about having Terry on is my only issue is she's in the middle of a season. What kind of time does she have to devote to this? I don't blame her. I blame them for putting a coach on that who is in the middle of playing right now. I don't think that's the smartest thing to do, but that's nitpicking. But
I mean, if you had an opportunity to be on a committee that picked who your boss was going to be,
right? No. I'm not blaming her. Like I said, I don't blame Terry. I blame whoever put them on there because obviously she doesn't have the time to spend on that right now. But anyway, you've got Ned Fowle. Shocker. No, not. I'm just one of the biggest donors in IU history. Right behind him, maybe the biggest donor, Cindy Simon Scott. Of which Simon Scott Assembly Hall is named for. Anthony Thompson, former IU Football American. He's also an IU Senior Associate Athletic Director. Randall Tobias, a former trustee, chairman of the IU Board of Trustees, director emeritus of the IU Foundation, former chair and CEO of Eli Lilly.
Is that a good job?
I've heard of that company. Is that like a paint company or something? Maddie White is an IU Senior Associate Athletic Director for Academic Services. James Wimbush is a former chair of the IU Athletics Committee. Todd Yeagley, IU head men's soccer coach, Kurt Zorn, a faculty athletics representative, and that's the list right there. So you got a mix of academics, you've got an athlete on there, you've got some coaches, and a lot of and some big donors, and then some upper echelon IU people. So it's a mix of people. With that mix, Todd, do you see that having any effect one way or another? Of course, there's been no list of candidates given. We gave our own. I gave our
right.
That there's no doubt. But now that's not to say that with all this going on, there's going to be a lot of people that apply for that job that we have no idea who.
Sure.
But I just can't see, other than Scott Dolson, Pat Kraft, and Chris Reynolds, just not being at the top of any list somebody can come up with.
Yeah, and I didn't know who Fred Glass was before, he became the IU athletic director. And so I don't necessarily know that just because, we kind of pick out our own who's list. I mean, we pick out people who are basically attorneys or in that same role at other places that have an IU tie and an IU attachment. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the direction they're going to go. I like the diversity of the committee. I like the way that they've got representatives from the athletic department on there, and they've also got some people who have some influence at the university from an investing standpoint, and I like the diversity of the committee. I don't have any
I was not laughing at you. I was laughing because I got a text in from Joker. He suggests Condoleezza Rice.
Well, yeah. Well, she's going to be president, though.
How is she not on the list? I don't. Isn't she on every list that makes no sense? Yeah, let's just make her the athletics director.
Put Dr. Phil and Oprah on there too.
Oh, man. Well, Condoleezza Rice, because she's on the stupid committees of the NCAA, which drives me insane.
She needs to be the president of the United States.
Joker, that's pretty damn funny. I'm going to give you that one. But with this list, does it make it easier, harder for any particular candidates, you think? I mean, we've got Scott Dolson is the only what I call inside candidate. He's been in the position underneath of Fred Glass for a long time. He started at the bottom up. He was a basketball manager. Him as being a manager for Coach Knight. So he started at the ground up. Doesn't have legal experience like you talked about yesterday, but neither probably will Pat Kraft or Chris Reynolds. But
Chris Reynolds does. Chris Reynolds has his law degree. Yeah,
he's an attorney. Okay, so There you go. You've talked about the many athletics directors that are actually lawyers because of their contract negotiating skills and things like that. So that probably gives Chris Reynolds a leg up. I mean,
it definitely, it seems like it's been a factor in the hiring process in the past. Now, saying all of that, I don't think I guess I shouldn't say this. I don't know that it's mandatory. I'm pretty sure it's not mandatory, but if you look at, we talk about it, and I think we would talk definitely that it's been a successful time for Indiana while Fred Glass has been there. And Scott Dolson has been, right beside Fred Glass in so many of the decisions and things that have happened. From our perspective, at least that's the way that it appears.
And I'm not trying to cut anything that Fred has achieved, but the one thing that I have to mention is when we talk about success during his tenure, well, also coincided during that tenure is a massive influx of money from the Big Ten Network that didn't used to be there. So I think that either one of us could be really successful if you're feeding us $50 million a year too.
Yeah, I mean, he's had more to work with. Let's just put it that way. But you also
Very diplomatic.
You also factor into that he's somewhat responsible for that being the case and some of that coming in. So
absolutely,
and the donorship and the facilities, everything is better than it was when he got here. So you have to. I think no matter what you think of him or the athletic department, you have to look at that. It's a positive right now. And I think I think you said something a minute ago that will Indiana is known for this, and all of a sudden there will be 1 to 5 candidates that we don't have any clue who they are or what's going on. And as soon as they release those names, I'm telling you, I did not know who Fred Glass was prior to him, being a part of the athletic department. And and being hired as the AD. So I'm not necessarily advocating saying it has to be Chris Reynolds because he's from IU, or it has to be Scott Dolson because he's already a part of it. But I think that definitely gives them if they're not interviewed, there'll be an issue.
And the fact that Fred Glass has hired the 22 coaches in 24 sports that IU has, Fred Glass has hired 15 of those coaches. Of those 15, I'd say 14 have been confirmed as being, hey, this has been a successful hire. I'm not doing that to be hard. Obviously, the basketball situation is one that is still hanging out there. I'm not saying that it can't turn in that direction, but it is not in that camp right now. And I think that most fans see it that way. And not that it can't get there, but unfortunately, that's the one that fans care about more than any when it comes to Indiana. It is the basketball program. It's the bell cow. And that's what people want to see succeed. And it's not, again, I'm not saying it can't get there under Archie. It very well may head in that direction. But of the 15 coaches he's hired, you could at least say 14 of those have been a success. Tom Allen, obviously, working out. Terry Morin working out. Todd Yeagley has worked out. Jeff Mercer has worked out. Angel Escobedo looks like a great hire. I mean, you can go on and on and on. So with that record, that's hard to do. I mean, that's hard to be that damn successful. I don't care what you're talking about. I mean, you can take the basketball equation out of it. Those other 14, man, they're all doing pretty damn well in their position.
Yeah, and let's also add a factor into that, in that our as Indiana basketball fans, our expectation level for basketball is much higher than, I'll say, 99% of the other schools across the country.
Right.
And so the success rate of that is measured much higher than it is in a football program. Like, you're considering Tom Allen a great hire, and if you want to look at win percentages and things like that, I mean, Archie Miller has a much higher win percentage than what Tom Allen has. Right now, they're hot because they had an 8-win season and they're going to a bowl game, a big bowl game. And so none of what I'm saying is to diminish anything from any other program. I'm just saying we have a higher standard for the basketball coach. I think it's a successful hire. I like Archie. I want him to be my coach for the school I love and root for. And so I'm great with that. And I think in the long run, it'll look at it. When we look at it 3 years from now, we'll say he hired 15 successful coaches.
Very well could be the case. And then now a lot of times the good thing is with all the programs are heading in the right direction. Those 14, and of course we're waiting to see if basketball heads in that direction as well. But when you have a new AD come in, the thing is, those guys, they want their own people in place. So does it give Archie a little less leash than he currently has?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think it's the same kind of situation. Like when you hire a new football coach, they want their own people in place. They want their own offensive coordinator. They want a defensive coordinator. They want people they're comfortable with and that kind of have the similar scheme and style that they have. I don't see that as the case as an AD. And an AD, he's not going out and trying to win games. He's not putting a game plan together. He's trying to make sure he's got the right people in place to lead those different programs. And so I don't necessarily think someone's going to come in and if their goal I think if that committee senses that the candidate's goal is to come in and kind of put their statement on the athletic program, I don't think they're going to get hired. And I don't think that I don't think anyone is going to come into it with that approach either. I mean, I think they would all love to come in and just kind of, keep everything on an uptick the way it is right now. And somebody coming in to clean house, I doubt that person gets too far through the interview process.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. I don't see that happening in any regard. Are we on time, Jake? All right. A few things of note, man, that we talked about off. If you ever watched the movie Radio with Cuba Gooding Jr., it's a pretty cool movie about a mentally disabled kid who went on to become a football manager. It was a good movie. And then, of course, remember the Titans. Coach Herman Boone, the head coach that Denzel Washington played at, both passed away within the last week. So 2 pretty good movies, 2 real stories, true stories. So if you haven't seen those movies, I don't know what the hell you've been doing in life, but go see them.
Great sports movies and great story. Both of them just great, incredible stories. And yeah, just sad for basketball movie or I'm sorry, athletic movie people, those are two good stories and unfortunate passings this week.
We got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. We've got Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition in the next hour. We're going to talk more about the athletic director hire. And, of course, Indiana taking on Notre Dame Saturday. Bankers Life Fieldhouse Crossroads Classic. All that. Lots more coming up with Coyle and Leary from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Coyle.
Well, all right. Welcome back. You're having a little hoedown here. Welcome back to Coyle Leary here on this Thursday, December 19. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Been a good day already, man. Dylan Sin from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette was with us. We talked about Indiana and Notre Dame, amongst other things. That happened Saturday, and while I'm talking about that, don't forget, after the game with Todd Leary, happens again, like it does after each and every IU basketball game. This time we're coming to you live from the Tap in Indianapolis, located at 306 North Delaware on Mass Ave.
That'll be fun. I'm excited to see that. I've never been to that place up there, so I'm excited.
Neither have I. I'm looking forward to that. Great area. It's a great area. Indianapolis is just a fun town. Indianapolis does as good a job hosting major sporting events as any place in the United States.
There is no question about that. And I when the Super Bowl was here, even though it was in February, God blessed Indianapolis with some warmer weather during that week. And when the Big Ten tournament is there, every other year or every so often when it's at Indianapolis or when the NCAA events are hosted there, fans just rave about the ability to be able to walk from hotels to restaurants to the arena. And it makes just a gigantic impact and huge difference in the whole experience that fans have when they come in there. It's so much better to watch it there.
And you've got the venues all right there. Lucas Oil Stadium down there, Bankers Life Fieldhouse right there. Even the baseball stadium, all that is downtown. That's unusual for a major U.S. city to have those kind of large venues within blocks of each other.
Yeah, and that's kind of Indianapolis's draw, is that's why they get so many things at the convention center, and it's a big little town, and it's awesome to be able to have that many great hotels and that many great restaurants, within walking distance of the places that big sporting events are going on, or the things at the convention center. And I'm telling you, I'm from Indianapolis, obviously, so I love it from that perspective. But it just is so much. It makes the events so much fun, and I think that's why. I mean, you hear, believe it or not, I'm going to say it. You even hear people from Ohio State and Kentucky when they get to come into Indianapolis for an event. They just rave about how awesome it is. For the the venues themselves are great. Bankers Life is awesome. Lucas Oil Stadium is awesome. But just the ability to be able to walk around and all the fan support and everything going on. It's the Big Ten tournament when it's in Indianapolis is the absolute best. When it's in Chicago, it's cool because it's Chicago and we don't live there, so it's nice to get to go there. But the fact that you've got to take a taxi for 35 minutes to get out to the arena, and
parking is horrible.
And you're staying at a hotel where 99% of the people in there are not part of the event that's going on. It's not the same feel and vibe that you get when you get to go to Indianapolis.
The only complaint I've heard from Kentucky fans is they don't have very good tractor parking downtown. So,
yep, you right about that.
Indiana takes on Notre Dame Saturday at the Bankers Life Fieldhouse. After that, Purdue and Butler go at it, but no one's going to be listening because you're going to be listening to After the Game with Todd Leary.
You better
Indiana
be.
Coming on with another win, hopefully. Also, the Gator Bowl, Toxler Gator Bowl comes up later on. Let's see, January 2nd. Looking forward to broadcasting from Jacksonville. We're excited to be doing that. So I'm looking forward to that game as well. And now that Kalen DeBoer is going to be there, it kind of brings some excitement. You're like, damn, that'll be fun. It's going to be, I'm telling you, I mean, this could be a really, really fun game because I think these teams are evenly matched.
Yeah, they are evenly matched. It's, the 5 wins in a row for Tennessee to finish their year. I mean, they started out 1-4 and are able to make the Gator Bowl. I mean, that's a pretty impressive feat. And they're an SEC team, and it just gives Indiana a ton to play for. I think, it's so strange because as a fan, we just want them to get to a bowl, and the fact they're going to a Florida Bowl makes it awesome. And then the ability. Or the hope that we've definitely got the feel that they've got a chance to win and that they, maybe even should win the game. It creates just tons of excitement. Like I'm not just excited for the opportunity of them playing in a bowl. The opportunity for them to really have a great chance to win is super exciting. Can't wait.
And you cannot put a price tag on the fact that on that night, in the midst of all that would be going on, they're the only game in town.
That's incredibly lucky is not the right word because they created that luck or gave themselves the opportunity for that. But boy, it's fortunate situation for the coaching staff, for recruiting and everything involved. It's puts Indiana in a great position.
And I think that obviously, if it's a closer game, will bode better for both teams. So you have more viewers, but as long as you're winning. But having a close game would be you're going to get a lot more people watching. You're going to get other prospects watching, recruits watching. I mean, it's a big time opportunity for Indiana in that regard.
It really is. I mean, it is the only game on TV for a big bowl game like that. I mean, everybody. I'm a basketball guy, and ever since I was a kid, I can always remember hearing about the Gator Bowl and the Orange Bowl and Citrus Bowl and the Rose Bowl and all those. And this is one of those, top bowl names that you always hear and think about. So it's a great opportunity. And the fact that we really think that they should win the game just makes it super. I'm really excited to see how they come out and play in that game.
Tim's texting into the show. I think he got stuck in a time warp last night. He's been stuck in 1994 this morning. He wants to know, what did Knight say to you when you came off the court on your senior night? Do you remember?
No idea. I do not remember.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I remember what he said in the introductions and all that stuff, because he said so many nice things, and obviously that's a rarity. And I don't mean that to rip on him or be mean. I'm just saying, generally he's pretty critical about stuff.
It wasn't normal for you to hear Bob Knight say nice things about you.
It was not normal to hear that come out of his mouth. So those things I obviously remembered, but people ask me a lot about different things. There's a picture of Calbert picking me up in Calbert's senior year. I made a big play at the end of a game, and Calbert picked me up and was holding me up in the air, and people were always like, "What did he say to you?" and all that. And I don't remember that kind of stuff. I don't have any idea, but there's certain situations, like when I told you Coach Knight made me hand the ball over to the guy on defense. There's certain things like that you remember. I remember trying to throw a behind the back pass, jumping up in the air one day. It's just some stupid little things that you did that you remember.
How'd that behind the back pass go?
It did not work out good. It did not work out good. And I can't even say hey, I completed it and the guy laid it in. None of that happened. It was a turnover and it looked ugly.
Oh, man.
Nothing positive came out of that.
Oh.
I didn't try it again, I can tell you that.
Oh, I bet not. I've told you, I think there was a time, it was Todd Jadlow. He makes a play and he gets fouled, and he does this kind of on the baseline, right into the student section, he does this kind of bow thing. And, oh, my God, I don't think I've ever seen somebody come out of a game faster in my life. I can't believe Knight didn't go out there and grab him by the nape of the neck and take him out of the game.
Yeah,
he was pissed.
Here's the reason what you learn into not showboat or do anything like that under Coach Knight is because then the next mistake that you make, that's all that's going to be talked about. And the funny part, if we could have had smartphones and video back then, to see him imitate what it is we did at some point in time was really comical. And Coach Felling and all those guys, and Coach Dockich, they would all try to emulate and imitate the moves that we made and some of the stuff that we did. It was just a riot. We had a lot more fun than what people think, but most of it was behind the scenes where the coaches didn't even know we were really laughing at them.
We were talking earlier about having a new AD and whether that shortens Archie's leash if things don't go well. Joker texts in, because of buyout options, Archie will be at IU a minimum of 5 years. That may be true. That also brings up another point. With Fred Glass signing Tom Allen just a week ago to this long-term contract, is that fair? Because he knew he was leaving. Now, I know he wants to do that for Tom Allen, and I'm not saying Tom Allen doesn't deserve that. He does. But how fair is that, knowing you're leaving to the next AD? You just saddled him, choosing, not his, for a minimum of 7 years contractual.
Yeah, I don't know that fair is the measurement. Yeah, it's just one of those situations. I think it's probably more customary than anything. That's probably a year, maybe on the high end of what's probably the average new contract for a guy at that level, football coach at that level. So, maybe it's a year too long, but if it was a 6-year contract or a 5-year contract, I don't think any of us would ever blink as to.
Well, I'm not saying that Tom.
Yeah, I know you're not saying you don't disagree with it. It seems weird. Yeah, sure.
Because he knew he was leaving when he
should have gone. What he really should have done is gone in and hired Indiana Sports Beat as a 7-year, $27 million contract, and we would have committed for 7 years.
Yeah.
And he's leaving, so what would he care?
Exactly.
I'm a little disappointed that didn't happen, but for the most part, he's been pretty successful.
I like your thinking. Hey, we got a lot more coming up. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition is going to join us. We're going to talk about Yesterday was the beginning of the early college football signing period. Indiana signed 18. It's the top 50 class. Nothing to write home about, but not terrible either. So to be able to get a decent class when it's small like that, call it kind of an off year, because like I've talked about, they've got so many underclassmen. 80 out of 113 roster players this past season were underclassmen. So that means these couple classes are going to be smaller than normal. But to be able to pull in a decent class, although it's still 12th in the Big Ten, Todd. I mean, there's only 14 teams. And
Here's what's weird about that, though, is they're not skilled. Most of the signees are not skilled positions.
Right.
So in that regard, it's almost kind of hard to judge how strong it is. The coaching staff, as long as they're super excited, they got a bunch of really good linemen coming in. You know, when's the last time we really celebrated the signing of an offensive or defensive
exactly
lineman? And a defensive end occasionally you'll go crazy about. Tight end, even sometimes we're not even super excited about that. But, we sign a fast receiver and all of a sudden that class jumps up to, 5th in the Big Ten. Or you sign a quarterback that's highly sought after. That doesn't mean he's going to be any good or he's going to be anything. I mean, as long as the coaching staff is super excited about having good interior alignment and things like that in the draft, I think in the signing period, I think it'll be a successful one when we look at it 2 or 3 years down the road.
That may be the smartest thing you've said, because that's dead on. I mean, that is dead on. A third of their class were offensive linemen. You have no idea how big or fast or strong those guys are going to get. It's a different deal.
You give your quarterback, time in the pocket. Indiana's going to have a quarterback in their system that is very capable if he's got the time to stand back there and throw. And so, hey, let's get the pieces that creates that opportunity for him.
I agree with you. Hey, man, we got a lot more coming up. Dustin Schutte from Saturdays for This is going to join us next. We're going to talk about IU's recruiting class and those throughout the Big Ten, see what's going on, and we'll talk a little bit about the Taxstar Gator Bowl as well. We got plenty more coming up. Stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary back from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle and Leary with you here on this Thursday, December 19th, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Try to stay warm.
Can I make a point?
You can do whatever you like.
I'm not a music guy, but Jake sucks at picking the music when we come back in.
Wow.
Like I'm not a musical person.
Shot across the bow. Jake, tell me what you do in your spare time.
He sucks at it. Like you don't pick any kind of good walkout music. Like I don't get pumped up when we come back to whatever that was. What was that? What was that?
You don't even know.
You don't even know.
Come on, man.
From what year? What? That sounded like it was from the 60s or 70s. That was terrible. I need some good just get me some good walkout music from now on. Come on. Pump it up.
Man, Ohio State, not shockingly, had the top-rated recruiting class in the Big Ten a year after slipping to number 3. The Buckeyes are back on top in the Big Ten recruiting race.
They signed a big lineman out of Indianapolis, didn't they?
Well, they did that last year for sure. They have a pair of 5-star commitments at the top of the class. But yeah, they had the kid last year that from Ben Davis. Was it Ben Davis that was a good basketball player? I can't think of his name. DeJuan Jones. Dude was gigantic, like 6'7", 6'8". He's big, but he's got great feet.
Yeah, I don't remember him.
Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition joins us now. Dustin, how are you, man?
Hey, Jim, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Cannot complain with Todd Leary, of course, as always. And just looking through the recruiting classes this season, Indiana finishing up number 12 in the Big Ten. They weren't expecting a gigantic class because it was a smaller class, and they were going after, Todd pointed out, going after linemen. The offensive linemen made up a third of this class, which there's not a lot of big numbers going to stick out when you do that. But it's very important for Indiana to secure the offensive line.
Yeah, and Tom Allen talked about that. He talked about that being a priority, this recruiting class. And I think when you look at what he's done the previous 2 years there at Indiana, bringing in the top recruiting classes in program history, you kind of expected maybe Indiana to be in the top 30s, top 20s, maybe even this season with their recruiting class. But the bottom line is when you don't lose a lot of guys, when you brought in a lot of guys in your previous 2 classes, there's just not a lot of room there. And when you are making a priority to recruit one position, as you mentioned with the offensive line, that kind of hinders what you're able to do a little bit. So the important thing is he got a lot of good size. There were a lot of 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" offensive linemen that he was able to get. He was able to get a 4-star wide receiver, Rashawn Williams, out of Detroit. That was a big get for the Hoosiers. Overall, it's not impressive by the numbers, but when you talk about addressing a need, addressing some concerns that Indiana has heading into next season, I think that when you look at it, grand picture, big picture, grand scheme of things, Indiana is going to be really happy with this class.
If you look over the top three, it's the usual suspects: Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. Then a little bit of surprise. There's the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and Scott Frost jumped up with a top 20 class at number 4.
Yeah, and coming into the early signing period, I mean, Nebraska, that was a huge question mark, right? I think they were in the 30s, maybe 40s with their recruiting class, and you kind of thought, back-to-back 4-8 seasons, this didn't go as well as 5-7, excuse me, Nebraska finished this year. This wasn't a recruiting class that maybe Scott Frost thought he was going to have. And when you look at missing a bowl game for a third straight season, you start to think, are people going to buy into this program? Are they going to start to buy into Scott Frost? Are you going to see repercussions on the recruiting trail? And yesterday, it just seemed like 4-star commit after 4-star commit after 4-star commit, especially out of that Miami area. He was able to, get some really good recruits. And now you're talking about Nebraska potentially having a top 20 class. And a few weeks ago, like I said, you were concerned about Nebraska maybe reeling in a top 30, top 40 class. So what he was able to do in that early signing period and kind of show that, hey, we were patient, we took our time, and we were able to get some really big commits and show that we're still going to be a program to be messed with. They just had a really good day on the recruiting trail in that first day of the early signing period.
After Nebraska, you got Wisconsin number 5, which makes sense. But here's the biggest shocker: sliding in at number 6, Maryland. The 27th ranked class, and part of that was banked on the biggest shocker of the day was flipping 5-star Rakeem Jarrett from LSU to Maryland. How the hell does that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. They talk about Mike Locksley being an excellent recruiter, and I think he kind of proved that yesterday, especially when you talk about Maryland having a 3-9 season and their offense just looking horrendous throughout this season. I guess what you could say is, you're more likely to get on the field immediately in College Park than you are at LSU. But at the same time, if you watch Maryland's passing attack, that was atrocious. Mike Locksley has to be recruiting based on what he did at Alabama, I have to think, to interest a guy who's a top 20 player. And, I said this on Twitter the other day. It's great that they were able to bring in Jarrett, bring in a top 20. I think he was the number 2 overall receiver in the class. But over the last 5-6 years, there is not a program in the Big Ten that has done less with more than Maryland. You look at, I think they had a top 15, top 20 class. When you combine who they had on the roster over the 247 Sports over the last 3 or 4 seasons, a top 15, top 20 class. And they haven't been to a bowl game since 2016. I know that there's been some heavy turnover with coaching. I know there's been some issues there from an administration and from a coaching standpoint. But at the same time, this is a team that's been loaded with talent and just hasn't been able to produce on the field. So he's a big get. Obviously, that helps that offense quite a bit. But I still am in wait-and-see mode because the way this season started, you thought Maryland could be a potential bowl team. And with the exception of that last game against Michigan State, they continued to get worse and worse as the season went along.
Yeah, that player really skewed their ranking because Maryland signed only one other top 300 player Wednesday. So that one signature sent them up way higher than they really are. And it doesn't matter how great a talent you pull in if you don't have the guys around him.
Yeah, and you've seen that with Maryland the last couple of years. I mean, they've brought in DJ Durkin, signed back-to-back top 25 classes. Maybe it was top 30 by the time it was all said and done, but top 25 classes in back-to-back years. And again, you went to one bowl game, and that was in 2016. That was his first season there. So then you're doing it with the guys Randy Edsall brought in. This is a team that has been that historically has been able to recruit at a decent rate. You talk about Iowa and Wisconsin. Maryland's been right in that mix. They've been right in that category with those two programs, and they just don't produce. So that's why I say I'm still in wait and see mode. Obviously, there's a lot to be excited about with getting Jarrett, getting a 5-star guy, and maybe sending that message that, hey, it is okay to come to a place like Maryland where you can play and you can get big results. But I think that's going to be a little bit overhyped. It skews the numbers as far as the recruiting rankings are concerned. And I don't know that he's going to be the savior that people are making him out to be right now.
Purdue becomes the 7th Big Ten team to rank inside the top 30. They come in 30th, but they went heavy on offense, signing the number 5 tight end. They signed a top number 12 pro-style quarterback, and I believe they also signed a high-ranking running back in that class.
Yeah, and you look at what Jeff Brom's been able to do, and it's been consistent. over the during his time there, with the exception of that class he had to kind of piece together with junior college recruits and what was left on the recruiting trail when he initially took the job before the 2017 season. He's done an excellent job recruiting skill position players. My one concern with Purdue has been offensive line. I know they got a top 5 kid from Indiana and Gus Hartwig, who was a Zionsville kid. He looks like he can
be only Indiana signee, no less.
Yeah, so he swiped him from the backyard. So that's a little stinger there too. But at the same time, Purdue hasn't done a great job recruiting offensive line. He's done an excellent job of getting the skill position players that they need to run his kind of offense. But at the same time, you got to correct some things on the offensive line. Now, I know that they had a really young group up front, and they do have some skilled guys that should be able to make an impact moving forward. But I would have addressed maybe the offensive line a little bit more. I think Purdue's got the skill position players, with the exception of the running back spot right now. So it was interesting to see that he's still focused on getting a ton of wide receivers, a couple really good running backs into that mix. But overall, you can't knock when you have a top 25 class. I mean, obviously you're doing something right. And to do it, 3 years in a row in the top 30, that's pretty special at a place like Purdue.
We keep on looking down. The Big Ten has 9 teams, 9 inside the top 32. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, and then when you look, I think it's 10, excuse me, in the top 35, top 40. So when you look at this conference top to bottom, you talk about the early signing period. I know that they talked about this yesterday on Big Ten Network, how much it's helped teams in the Big Ten West, how much it's helped teams like even Indiana, Purdue, even Northwestern to get this early signing period going, because you don't get the opportunity. They don't get as much chance to go and visit some of these other schools. You get a chance to lock them in early, and they don't get the chance to do that, have that last second flip. And so that's really helped the Big Ten. When they first started this early signing period, guys like Urban Meyer were talking about, how it's detrimental to the coaching staff and maybe to the players to some extent. I think that was a lot of blue blood talk. I think that he saw what was possible in some of these other schools, giving Northwestern, giving Wisconsin, giving Purdue and Indiana, giving those teams chances. And now you're starting to see that the Big Ten is really benefiting from this early signing period. And now it's a little bit more balanced, with the exception of Illinois and Rutgers, who are still way below where they need to be.
And Dustin, Indiana, we talked about, they come in at number 12 in the Big Ten, 49 overall. With what they had going, is that a little their class was smaller, but is the 49th class, when you look at these other Big Ten teams so much higher up, is that disappointing for Indiana?
I wouldn't say it's disappointing. I think it's a little bit surprising, considering the success that they had this season. And again, that the fact that Tom Allen was able to bring in their 2 highest ranked recruiting classes the previous 2 years. So I think people expected this team and Tom Allen to recruit at an extremely high level. But again, when you look at this team, when you look at this recruiting class top to bottom, you did 2 things. You were able to bring in another 4-star playmaker at wide receiver, again, Rashawn Williams, who's I think he's top 300. I'm not quite sure on what his national ranking is there on 247 Sports. But then you brought in 6 offensive linemen, and that was a key concern this year. And when you saw what they were able to do kind of with the injuries, this season, with Coy Cronk going down, with Hunter Littlejohn going down from time to time, they had to kind of, piece this offensive line together, and they were still able to get production. So what are you going to be able to do now that you have guys that you want in your offense that are going to be able to help, from the get-go? So I think when you look at this, again, you can't look at recruiting as guys necessarily who are going to make an immediate impact. I think there's plenty of guys in Indiana's previous 2 classes that can jump in and make an immediate impact. I think when you look at the size, when you look at what Indiana addressed as far as the concerns, 2 or 3 years down the road, I think that you're going to look back and say that, this was an underrated class. This is a class that really, if we didn't bring this into Indiana, we might have struggled a little bit, because you can't win without good offensive linemen in the Big Ten.
Absolutely. And, of course, the biggest story for Indiana right now is the fact Kalen DeBoer leaving the program to become the head coach at Fresno State, where he came from. But it's an opportunity for Indiana to fill that position again. And this time around, though, Tom Allen's phone is ringing off the hook.
Yeah, and that's a good sign for Indiana. I know Hoosier fans are going to be upset that DeBoer left, but it's a sign of a healthy program when you have guys knocking on your door, one, to poach your assistant coaches, means you're doing a good job. Number two, it's an even better sign to know that people are wanting to come to Indiana. This is not necessarily just that stepping stone job anymore. And I say that even though Kalen DeBoer took a head coaching job, but this isn't just a job like I want to be the offensive coordinator at Indiana, so maybe I can be the offensive coordinator somewhere else. I can go to Indiana now and maybe I can get my first head coaching job at the FBS level when you look at what DeBoer has done. So it's a good sign for Indiana, and it'll be interesting to me to see, what Tom Allen does with his next offensive coordinator hire. You talk about his phone ringing off the hook. I'm not so sure he has to look outside of his own complex, because he talked about yesterday, he doesn't want to bring in a brand new offense. This works so well under DeBoer with Michael Penix, Peyton Ramsey, the receivers they have some really good running backs, obviously, both coming in and who are already in the program. He wants to keep the things the same as much as possible. And I think when you look at who they have there with Mike Hart and Grant Hurd, maybe you see a co-offensive coordinator role and try to run a similar offense that DeBoer had. I just don't think you want to change too much. So he's either going to have to go after somebody who has a similar mindset to Kalen DeBoer, or who knows the offense inside and out, and that would be the two guys he's got on his staff right now.
Yeah, and I look at one thing that I compare, if you want to compare Indiana and Purdue, is Indiana had 9 kids. No, I'm sorry. They had, I think it was 6 players from the state of Indiana, as Purdue signed 1. More, that's because they're recruiting more of a national recruiting, and of course they had a much better signing class. Is Indiana putting too much emphasis on recruiting inside of the state?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it depends on the year. I mean, traditionally, Tom Allen's done really well in the state of Florida. So I think that he
and not a single Florida
would like
recruit this
Indiana
year.
Would like to have Indiana and Florida be his two main sources to be able to keep those relationships, because you saw this year the top 3 players in Indiana signed elsewhere. You had Cole Brevard, a defensive tackle, went to Penn State. Deontay Craig, a defensive end, went to Iowa, and Josh Fryer, an offensive lineman, went to Ohio State. So you want to put an emphasis, because there is some good talent in Indiana, especially in the Indianapolis area. So I think that you can put an emphasis on Indiana, especially if you're recruiting well in Florida. I don't necessarily know that Indiana needs to go more national. Obviously, you'd like to have a little bit more presence in a few more states, maybe, but I don't think that you can ever put too much emphasis on your home state, especially when you have such good guys. I mean, you look at Tommy Stevens, a quarterback a few years ago, who was from Indiana, and he missed. Both Purdue and Indiana missed out. So there's some really good quality kids that can contribute to Indiana. So I don't necessarily think that would be true for Tom Allen and the Hoosiers.
Right, but if you're not landing the best in there, are you hurting yourself when you're not landing the best talent within the state?
Yeah, but I think what you want to do is, at the same time, while you can say that you're hurting yourself, you can also continue to establish those relationships. And the more that you continue to show that you care about Indiana football, and the more that you show that you continue to build relationships with high school head coaches and kids in you're going to get more access inside the state. You're going to have a better chance. Like last year, Purdue and Indiana, all 5 of the top 5 players in the state of Indiana signed at either Purdue or Indiana. That was the first time ever since 247 Sports has been keeping track of these things. So I think that when you put an emphasis, you're giving yourself a better chance to sign those recruits in the future. It just didn't work out this year. Like I said, you obviously want to go national. You want to get into the New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia area like Purdue did this year, especially with Maryland over there in Loxley, recruiting that area heavily. You want to recruit well in Georgia and Florida, because those states produce such great talent. But at the same time, I don't necessarily agree with them being hamstrung by putting an emphasis on the state of Indiana, because in the past it worked out. This just happened to be a year where for both Purdue and Indiana, it just didn't work out.
Any suggestions or recommendations for that offensive coordinator position?
Like I said, I would say you would stick in-house. I would promote
Grant
Hurd and Mike Hart, because I think those guys are good enough you want to keep those guys on your staff. They've proven to be really good recruiters. They brought in, guys like Samson James. They got in Rashawn Williams this year. They brought in some really good talent. They know the offense. You don't want to change it that much. So like I said, that would be my first suggestion, maybe the top priority. But at the same time, I think what Tom Allen needs to do is talk with Kalen DeBoer and say, hey, is this going to be a smart move, or who has a similar playbook that you have? I don't want to revamp this offense. It worked so well this year. I want to be able to have success. So I think
he's already gone on record saying that that's almost a guaranteed criteria that whoever this next person is, the offense will not change. He stated that yesterday in the press conference, that's something he wants to go forward with, which would lend itself to backing up what you just said, looking in-house. However, I think that because of the interest, and they've shown that they will pay for an offensive coordinator, that I think that they have to go outside and bring in the absolute best person for the job, because to me, Kalen DeBoer is a huge reason why they had the success this year that they had.
Right. But I think the issue with that would be when you bring in somebody who wants a high paying position, who wants to do their own thing. You can say in the interview you want to run your own offense, but at the same time, you also don't want a clash in the conference room. I mean, a little bit of that is good, but at the same time, if you were going after a high profile offensive coordinator, if you're going for the big bucks guys, you're going to be subject to them wanting to do what they want to do. I mean, I remember last year, Matt Canada, he seemed like a perfect candidate to take the job as the offensive coordinator at Indiana, but there was just too much colliding there. You know, he was going to bring his own system. He wanted to bring his own guys into Indiana. And so I think that's a concern when you look outside of the program and when you look in for the best of the very best. Now, that's not to say there aren't good candidates out there and people who are interested in the job. I think that's 100% true. But I think that when you're also running a pretty big risk in terms of what you don't want to take a step back. And I don't think that you would if you hired in-house. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I don't have a candidate in mind because I immediately thought that maybe split the offensive coordinator role between Hurd and Hart. I thought that would be a smart move. But if his phone is ringing off the hook, obviously he's going to have some options.
Absolutely. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition, I can't thank you enough, brother. We appreciate you each and every time.
Jim and Todd, thanks. It's always a pleasure, and you guys have a happy holiday.
You as well, brother. You as well. Thanks a lot. There's Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition joining us. We appreciate that. Him, as always, got lots more to talk about. I disagree with Dustin, Todd, on the fact of I think the position Indiana is in, where they've gotten to, I think that you have to go get the absolute best offensive coordinator that you can get. You've shown that you will pay, and I understand what he's talking about, because he's right when he talks about why Matt Canada didn't get the job last year. He kind of had his demands and all that. Well, how'd that work out for Matt Canada? He doesn't have a job right now. So
yeah, I mean, I hear you, and you know, I don't know that the best scenario is. Now, I agree with you. They need to get the best person available. I'm not in agreement with you in saying that best person might not be already working at Indiana on the staff. Now, I don't know that, but I mean, the cool part is what both of you have said. They're going to have options. There's going to be candidates that they can interview from other places that you can bring in. But at the end of the day, I think we would all agree we want the offense to be fairly similar and, you know, to what it was last year. And I think the guys who have learned from Kalen DeBoer all year long and been the closest to him would be the ones that could keep it, you know, in that same realm.
But here's the thing: that offense was brought in from the outside,
but they learned it all year long. I mean, heck,
right?
He could,
he
could teach it to you and I if we spent a whole year together with him.
But I also think if you bring somebody in and you're paying them $1 million, they're going to do whatever the hell you tell them to do. If you say, "Hey, this is the offense I want," but that guy you're bringing in, that's going to be someone that you already know runs a very similar offense. You're not bringing in a guy who runs a wishbone offense and hiring him for this. So, they're going to already be in that realm. The reason I think that the reason Kalen DeBoer was successful is because we knew he had been successful for year after year. He had done this. He was a proven commodity. He was 67-3 as a head coach. Every place he had gone, he raised the points per game for that team everywhere. And I think that that's why you need a proven commodity if Indiana wants to continue the momentum of moving forward, which they are doing right now. I think anything other than that kind of does not promote a forward move. But that's just my opinion, which don't mean jack.
So what happens if Mike Hart becomes the guy, and then next year their offense is even better than it was this year? I mean, why can't we accept the fact that we might already have that guy?
Well, I'm not saying that we don't. I'm just saying there's no one in there that has proved any experience whatsoever as an offensive coordinator, no experience as a play caller, and no track record as a successful play caller. Kalen DeBoer had all that. He was a proven winner. And I think that if you can go get another proven winner, you're way ahead of the game, as opposed to saying, hey, let's give this guy a shot and see what he can do with it. Because that's what Indiana has done so much in the past. The Kalen DeBoer was a departure. That's what they had normally not done. And look how well it worked out for once. People have been clamoring for this for a long time.
Would your opinion change if, let's say, that he was here for 3 years, or even 2 or 3 years, and he had groomed these same guys that we're talking about, Mike Hart, and he had groomed those guys to understand his philosophy and everything, a little bit better? Would you be more okay with it at that point, or because you just don't think 1 year was enough time for him to teach them, or you just want somebody from the outside no matter what?
No, it's not. I want someone.
I'm asking. I'm not saying.
I want someone who is proven. At this level, I think you just.
Would you rather have someone that's proven at a much lesser competitive school,
like Kalen DeBoer was?
Yes.
Yes.
Would you rather have that?
Yes.
Yes.
So I don't care what level it is. Proven experience.
If there's a super successful high school coach, that's
getting a little too far.
You just said I don't care what level it is.
Well, I meant college level. Let me rephrase that. College level.
So Butler, for example, if they've had a really successful offensive coordinator, you'd rather have that than Mike Hart.
If he had the success level of Kalen DeBoer, absolutely, because we got exactly what we thought. In Kalen DeBoer, you got exactly what his record says he was. That's what Dennis Green says. They are what you say they are. They are what your record is. So
you take assistant coaches, use like Mike Krzyzewski as an example to switch to basketball. And if you take an assistant coach that works under him for 1 year's period of time, I'm going to assure you, like the amount of time you spend working on that stuff, you're going to learn an awful lot of stuff. And so that's why I'm not scared of it being an in-house hire. I'm not scared of that at all. But I also get what you're saying. They have proven they'll pay the money, and they have proven that it works if you go get the right guy. And so I'm not arguing with you. I'm just asking.
Right. No,
I'm not as against the inside hire as I think you are.
Yeah, it's not against it so much as I think that
it's not against it. You just don't want it.
I know that there is no candidate that is proven. There's no candidate that has shown that he is very successful at calling plays. There is no candidate that has given their team 10 to 15 points a game. Kalen DeBoer did all that. And he did it at Indiana, just like his record showed that he did. That's what I'm saying. There is nobody that has a resume saying anything close to that.
I agree.
So that's my and I'm not saying that can't be the case. I'm not saying Mike Hart can't go in there and do it. He just has no record at all showing that he can. So I would rather, to me, at this level, with where Indiana is and the success they've had, to continue that, I think you get someone who is proven in that area. But
it'll be exciting to see the interview process and who they talk to.
Oh, that and the AD process. All of it's going to be fun. It's going to be it's the same thing. It's because there's so much that goes on that we don't even know about.
Right.
I mean, and that's what I try to tell fans. You don't know what you don't know, but that's the same for me. I don't know what I don't know about what's going on behind the scenes.
Understanding what we don't know is a good issue to have, and a good quality to have, to understand. We have an opinion on what it is, but truly, I mean, and when we don't know this, Mike Hart or the rest of the staff there might have already played a huge part in the plays that were
absolutely called. Kalen DeBoer, him and Kalen DeBoer could have met every damn day, and we don't know that.
I'm sure they did.
And strategy.
If they didn't, I'd be shocked.
Well, I mean, they could have worked every day and strategized on grooming him. We don't. I don't know that. Sure. So, right. and I acknowledge that I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
I know what I do know, but I don't know. We find out. So that's the biggest thing I've learned working in the media is you don't know what you don't know until you know it. So if that makes sense.
I'm gonna let you go to break on that note.
Absolutely. We got plenty more coming up here on Coyle and Leary. You're listening to the Indiana Sports Beat coming from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with more right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett. Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Okay, it's a little better.
Welcome back to the music selections of Todd Leary. Welcome back to Coyle and Leary here on Indiana Sports Beat. Todd made a reference to Jake's music selection a minute ago, and man, that opened up the floodgates. Tim texted in and said, "Tell Jake he needs a new playlist." Something. Yes. He said something in the top 100 or anything from the 70s or 80s. Jennifer texted in, I have to agree with Todd on the music selection.
Thank you, Jennifer.
They're getting on it. So the people have spoken, Jake. Here's what Jake says. Tell him what you want to play. Tell him what you'd like to hear.
That I can't do because I can't name music from anything or whatever. But anything that's a little bit more uplifting.
A little Eminem.
It doesn't.
Two trailer park girls go rowdy outside, around the outside.
I don't know that Eminem would be uplifting. I mean,
I didn't say uplift. I thought you meant upbeat. I don't know how uplifting Eminem is. I don't know that fits into that category.
Me and beat are not synonymous. We're not used in the same sentence generally very often. But we do anything that's my hype music. Like I want you to create my hype music, Jake. Like that's we're asking asking Mike Hart to step up and call the right plays in the bowl game. I'm asking you to step your game up just a little bit and give me a little bit better music. Okay. Thank you.
We'll have to do a poll. We talked about this the other day. Wofford has a unique opportunity, man.
the North Carolina sweep?
Yeah, they can do the big sweep. They play at number 4 Duke tonight. Duke's an 18.5-point favorite on that. So
coming a couple of weeks after Stephen F. Austin went in there and beat Duke, I'm going to guess that they're not going to take them lightly.
Yeah, I'm going to guess they're going to be ready in Cameron. No doubt. Again, we're in the middle of finals week, so there's Charlotte playing again. Man, they obviously don't have finals this week. They're playing left and right. Maryland, number 7 Maryland at Adam Zagoria's favorite team, Seton Hall.
You're right about that.
Not a lot of other big games. I'm trying to see if there's any other. Auburn is at home to North Carolina State. A little cross-conference matchup there. Auburn's an 8.5-point favorite. Auburn's 9-0 and number 12. They've been very quiet.
Aren't they the only undefeated team?
Yes, you are right. They are the only undefeated team left, and they're number 12. What does that tell you?
It tells me, based on their coaching staff, they'll be on probation in the next 3 years.
No, that's another. We were talking about this earlier. How are these guys still in place at these schools?
I don't know.
It just kills me.
It's not a level playing field. That's all that you could realize. That's all that you can know. I mean, right now I'm getting ready to make some allegations that are unfounded because I don't have any proof of anything. But how does Memphis come up with the recruiting class they have? Like, it's not even a thing. That's not even possible.
Well, you pay for people to move into your district.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just saying, it's so out of control. I don't know how to fix it, and I don't like suggesting there's a problem of something that I don't also suggest.
And that goes into something. I think it was yesterday I talked about this. Exactly what you just said goes right into. Now they've got to worry about this name, image, likeness stuff and keeping that out. And I don't know how in the hell you're going to do that, because some of the things you're talking about is. How if you're allowed to profit off your name, image, and likeness, which again I'm not opposed to it. I just don't think there's any way in hell they're going to be able to do this and keep it straight. But how does a team like Adidas? Kansas? How are you going to prevent Kansas from having a deal set up with their cheating partner Adidas that doesn't offer a $100,000 endorsement contract every time you sign for Kansas?
You couldn't, because you could literally take Zion Williamson would be a good example from last year. I mean, he was such a unique style of player that if you would have let him profit off of, video game usage and things like that, where they could actually use his name and picture and all that stuff, he would have made more money than 90% of the players in the NBA. And you just can't allow that. Like, that can't be a thing. That can't be possible. I don't know how you're ever going to regulate it.
That's the thing. People are all beat up. Oh, they got a benefit. Oh, they're getting screwed. Oh, blah, blah, blah. They're about to ruin college athletics, and they're too stupid to get out of their own way to realize that. I think if they let all this stuff go through, it's going to be just the Wild West. And now what the hell do you have other than a quasi professional league?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, I think what everyone's trying to avoid, and I hope that they avoid it for the most part. I'm not saying I don't think that athletes who spend as much time as they do on their craft shouldn't get some compensation, but other than the scholarship, and believe me, I'm paying for 2 kids in college right now. I understand how much that is. And the burden that provides a family. So
let's go back to your playing days. All right, when you were getting the scholarship, and it was different then. You weren't getting nearly as much as they get today. they take care of them even more today than
You think so?
Well, you're not eating a Steak and Shake for training table.
Yeah, we chose that though.
I know. You chose that because it was one of the only options.
Well, we could have had catered food in every single day that would have been like, we had that when I first got there. When we first started, we had a catered meal every single day, and it was like you would eat, in a banquet type thing. I mean, it was steaks and burgers and stuff. I mean, it was all really good food. When you do that, you have to eat at a certain time. And, not everybody's the same. People are different schedules. I'm one of those people that immediately after I play or am involved in physical activity like that, I can't eat for a while. I mean, I can't eat for hours. And that training table is set up. We literally would practice and drive straight to the training table at the Union and eat. And when we would leave there, 90% of the food that started out being available was still there because nobody was hungry. But had that food been available 4 hours later, there would have been none left. We would have all eaten it. And so it's hard to make sure that it's set up for everybody. That's why when we had the opportunity to go to the Big Wheel, the Big Wheel was the best thing that we had when we were there. It was like a Denny's type thing, and you could go at any time and get breakfast food, or you could go at midnight. That was the best deal we had there.
But my question that I started out asking though is, when you were, did you feel compensated with the scholarship, with the food, with everything for what you were doing? Were you fine with that?
Yeah, I was. Of course we would have wanted more. And when you go up to Michigan and you see, those guys driving out in brand new cars and all stuff like that. There's some shady stuff going on.
Well, that's different.
That part of it sucks. But yes, I did. You know the difference of when you're a kid, $100 feels like $1,000. And, when we would get a scholarship check, once you move out of the dorm and you don't live in the dorm anymore, instead of your housing going to the school, you get a housing check. So we would get a check, I think it was once a semester or something like that, and it would take care of all of our housing. So even back in 1992, I'm getting a check for $1,500 to pay for my housing for the whole semester. So, it's not like it's a ton of money, but back then, heck, I think I paid $150 as my third of the rent for a month. So, it's just, yes, I totally felt like we were taken care of. All of my school was paid for, all of my books was paid for, all of my housing was paid for. And then there was always a little bit of extra money left over. The bad part was we never had time. Like, we weren't allowed to work back then during the season. During the school year, you're not allowed to work, even when your season wasn't in play. In the summertime, you could work, but that was it. And now they've changed that a little bit, but still, you don't have time. There's no way these guys would have time to go work 20 hours a week.
No way. Can you believe the show's over already?
No, I can't. It's been crazy.
That's just having a blast. It was a great show today. I cannot thank Dylan Sin enough from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition. Those guys are great as always. We appreciate them. And, man, it sure made the show fly. It was fun.
It sure did. Yep.
Looking forward to doing it all again tomorrow. We'll see who we can scrounge up for you as our special guest. Of course, Tom Brew will be with us as well. But
I'm going to break down tomorrow all the matchups. Indiana's got a matchup problem in this Notre Dame game.
Really?
So, defensively. So
that's the first time I've heard you say that this year.
Really?
Yeah, all the teams they've played,
they've got some guys that create problems for Indiana defensively. I think Indiana's going to win, but defensively they've got some issues.
That's very interesting. Looking forward to that. Make sure you tune in tomorrow to hear all that. You can catch us a myriad of places, of course. Make sure you share the show. If you're listening to it every day via podcast or whatever, share it out so the other folks can hear. You can always reach us on the text line at 812-269-6367. That's 812-269-6367. Hit us up anytime. We'll get back to you. We appreciate everybody listening to us today. We look forward to doing it all again tomorrow, man.
Yes, sir.
For Jake and Todd, I am Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.